Season 7 of Sun Coaches Podcast is proudly brought to you by Titan Sensor. Season 7. That was my number in high school, so maybe this will be lucky for us. We'll see. You know, I've learned over time that when somebody's talking about something you really don't want to talk about, you just can always throw in there, hey, I knew this guy once, and then just pretty much make up whatever you want to, and they won't listen to it. They'll get off track. And you don't have to talk about the uncomfortable thing anymore. Coach, like we do every week, tell everybody where you grew up and where you're from. Sun Coaches Podcast, where not everybody has a funny story, but everybody has a story. Hope you enjoy Season 7 of Sun Coaches Podcast. Sun Coaches is proud to partner with Titan Sensor for Season 6 and 7. Titan is made in the USA. Proudly founded and based in Texas. When you connect with Titan, you are not alone. You can collaborate and share templates with other coaches across the country to build reports and foster competition. Used by programs such as State 6A Georgia State champion Grayson High School, Titan can tailor a package to fit your needs. The eye in the sky never lies. Improve your team's performance with Titan. Sun Coaches Podcast, Season 7, and today I'm excited to be joined by the head coach at Oglethorpe County, Coach Mike Holland. Thanks for being on with me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, Coach, just like I ask everybody, where did you grow up and go to high school?
So I grew up in Oakwood. I went to high school at West Hall High School. I played for Tim Marchman there, and I wrestled and played baseball as well. You know, nothing notable as far as my high school career, but it was a good place to grow up and live, and I really enjoyed it. And then I went off and ended up going to North Georgia College, and then I ended up transferring to the University of Georgia, where I finished out there in 2007.
So you were a multi-sport athlete growing up?
Yeah, if you want to call it an athlete, yeah.
You played multiple things.
I played multiple sports, yeah.
Yeah.
I was on multiple teams.
Yeah, I sent the last, our little survey for my position group, offensive line kids, and last thing I told them was, hey, go support the other sports, and if you're not playing basketball, you need to wrestle.
Absolutely.
And if you're not going to play basketball or wrestle, you need to run track or throw.
Yep.
If you don't play baseball, because, I believe in people having as many opportunities that put as many irons in the fire as you can.
Absolutely. And I think the more you get to compete, I think the better it makes you at everything too. So you just gain a little bit from competing in those different sports, and then the cross training from those different sports and things like that. Especially at a small school, we got to share dudes. So I really encourage those guys to get out there and do that other stuff too.
Well, you hit on the cross training part. I was just going to say, what do you think about the different facets or levels of mental toughness that one has to have, or mental acuity you got to have, depending on the sport that you're playing? I think that plays into it too, not just the physical part of it, but it requires a different mindset for each of the sports. I mean, you can play with the same intensity and I want to win mindset, but some games are a little bit more, or some sports require a little bit more thought, a little bit more cerebralness than other
right.
sports.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, if you take something like wrestling, you're out there and ain't nobody coming to save you. You know what I'm saying? You got to figure it out, or
yeah, you ain't got to sub.
You're gonna get whooped in front of everybody, And then baseball, is thinking a step ahead and always knowing what to do, when to do it, and things like that. So yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah, that's why I think it's important to encourage kids to branch out, and and plus they might be a star at one sport and they may be the guy that is the sub in the other sport, and it builds character.
Absolutely.
They learn
Absolutely.
what it's like to not be the best, kid on the field at that sport.
Yep, and that really does help you, because I mean, if you're a kid that is lucky enough to get the opportunity to go and play something at the next level, you're going to have to start back at ground zero, and a lot of guys, they don't handle that very well. In my experience, and the kids that we've sent to college and things like that, that's been a real struggle for them starting out.
So you went to North Georgia. Did you always know you were going to teach and coach, or did you start off in accounting and got in the wrong line?
Well, I started off as a biology major. I wanted to be a pre-med guy, and then I found out real quick that I didn't fit in with that crew. I think I ended up getting a C in biology 1101 or something like that, 1107, whatever the major level biology was. And I was like, well, and I didn't love it. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't just in love with it. So I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And, I went back and I told my mom I was going to change my major, and she wasn't real happy about it. But, she just, and my grandmother was real, when she was alive, she was real, um, a real guide to my development and things like that. And she always told me that, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. And she owned a little one room beauty shop, and she worked there. That was on her property for 50 years, doing that, and she loved every minute of it. So I really took that advice to heart, and I said, well, what do I love to do? And I love sports. When I was a kid growing up, that's all I wanted to do is play sports. And when that road ends in high school, I took a dip, as far as, like, man, I was just kind of like a ship without a rudder. I didn't know what to do. Decided to get my degree in PE, and just like every other coach out there, um, and wanted to go that route. But what's even funnier about it is, we can go down that road as far as like jobs and things like that in a minute. But I've only taught, in my 19 years, I've only taught PE for 2 years.
That sounds
So
like me.
kind of how it works out sometimes.
Yeah, that sounds exactly like me. I've got my dissertation away from a doctorate in kinesiology, and I have my 6 year and my master's, and I've only taught PE maybe a handful of times. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
just the way it works out. So you go
It
to the
is.
University of Georgia. Were you active in any fraternities, or did you just?
No, no, I was just I ended up getting married my junior year to my high school sweetheart, and we ended up she was pregnant for most of our senior year, and we had our son. He just turned 18 not too long ago. It's kind of crazy to think about. So I was just working, and I worked at a little um, Mexican restaurant on College Station Road, and waited tables doing that, and just trying to make a young family work, and go to school and finish that up, so that we can make the big bucks teaching.
That's what I'm talking about. So, what was your first job out of college?
It was in the summer, and I was just thinking, I was trying to get PE jobs. I did my student teaching at Jefferson Middle. I tried to get on there, and they just didn't have anything. And this was back on a time when that there weren't a whole lot of teaching jobs available. It's not like now that everybody's bending over backwards to try to get teachers, but there weren't a whole lot of jobs available, and there were even less PE jobs available at the time. And so I'm searching around, trying to apply to places and things like that, and I run into my old um, high school principal, who was still the principal where I went to high school at West Hall. And I had stayed involved with the wrestling program, and a guy named Coach Raddick, Eric Raddick, who I ended up, he was a senior when I was a freshman, and we stayed close all throughout college. And he was working at West Hall when he came back from the Marines. And so he was trying to help me get on there and coach wrestling and things like that. And I didn't even realize it, but Dr. Adams, who was the principal at the time, she said that, well, hey, you already have a degree. If you can pass the GACE in, something else, then it was science. She said she had a human anatomy and physiology spot, and if I could pass it in science, then she would hire me. So, I pay the money, and I go take the test, and the biology test, and I come back, and I'm like, oh, Dr. Adams, I don't know about that bad boy. I don't think I did too well on that. And and so I go sign up to take the special ed GACE, and she was like, okay, well, we can try it like this. We can do this. I have a co-teaching spot. You can do that too. Well, I ended up before I even got signed up for the sped GACE, I came back that I passed the biology GACE, and I said, holy cow. So I always tell people it must be divine intervention that I'm doing what I'm doing, because when I walked out of that room, there was no shot that I thought I would be teaching anatomy and physiology.
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially for young people when they graduate and they're going into education, especially coaches. Get certified in as many things you can. I mean, now that all you have to do is take the GACE, you'd be
Right.
surprised what you pick up while you're in school.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
the
yeah.
things you retain that you're like, and like you said, you might not think you had a prayer of passing the test, but I mean it's like the special ed GACE. I say this all the time. If you've been teaching for any amount of time and you take the special ed GACE and you have an ounce of common sense, you can pass the special ed co-teaching GACE.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like Chris can't read. What's the best thing to do for Chris in class? A, make Chris stand up and read in front of everybody. No, that's probably not good. Call Chris a dummy and make him go sit outside and read by himself. No, that's not nice. Don't do that.
No.
Let Chris work with some other kids that are strong at reading and let them help him. Well, that sounds like a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
It's
that one's
questions
solid.
like
Let's pick
that.
that one.
Yeah, I'll pick
Yeah.
that one. So that's awesome. So you're teaching anatomy and physiology at your alma mater.
Yep. Teaching anatomy physiology at my alma mater. And you know what's funny is I don't a lot of people don't know this story, but out of college, the only because I talked to my wife and things like that about what we're going to do, and the only thing she was like, the only thing I don't want you coaching is football. she said there's too much time. You'll be away from the family all the time. I was like, yeah, okay, I understand. Well, I'm just going over here. I'm going to teach. I'm going to coach wrestling. So I go in the interview, and Dr. Adams says, "Hey, I want you to go see the football coach. Go down there." And so I said, "Oh, okay. Introduce yourself and all that." And his name was Coach Newton, Mike Newton. Um, and I go down there, and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I can. If you need something on Friday nights, or if you need support staff, or whatever, I can. I'd love to help you out. I'd be." And he sits back for a second. He goes, "Okay. All right, I think you're going to be my wide receiver coach. Can you start on Monday?" And I said, "Yes, sir."
Of
So
course.
went home and told my wife Jessica. I said, "Well, uh, got something to tell you. I'm going to be the wide receiver coach." She wasn't happy, but it ended up working out just like it should. I feel like. And as I got into it, I was coaching. I coached football and wrestling that first year. And a funny story. I think it's probably um, my first day on the job at a summer workout. After the workout gets done, I was lucky enough to work with a friend of mine I went to high school with. His name's Trevor Cotrette. He's the athletic director at West Hall now, and we stay in touch. And it was me and him, just a couple of greenhorns trying to figure it out. And Coach Newton gives us this big thick playbook and says, "Hey, I need you to go make copies of this." Right? So we're like, "Oh, okay." We run and make copies. He said, "I need 20 something copies." So we go up there, and neither one of us idiots had even ever tried to use a copy machine before. So, and we're too embarrassed to ask anybody to help us. So we're up there and we're scanning each page front and back and making the copy that way. So we spent like 2.5 hours up there, and we go back down and we're like, "Here you go, coach." And he goes, "What have you been doing?" We said, "Well, we're making copies, coach." And he goes, if y'all can't figure out how to make copies of a playbook, then I'm screwed." But he screamed it, and he didn't say screwed. So I was like, "Oh, all right. So this is what it's going to be like." But it was good though, because coming out of college, I didn't realize I learned a lot from Coach Newton. I've learned a lot from everywhere I've been. And I really have a lot of really good mentors in the profession. But the things that I had to grow up, real quick working for Coach Newton, because he expected a lot out of you, and he expected you to work hard, and that's exactly what I needed at the time. And I learned that work ethic I feel like carried me through. I'm definitely not the smartest guy. I'm not the most talented guy, but I feel like I can work with anybody, and I think that's a big part of starting my career there where I did.
And you also learned how to make two-sided copies.
And I also learned how to use a copy machine. Yeah. So,
Well, they don't teach you that in college. I mean, to be fair, you know.
to be fair, you're right. You're
I mean,
right.
to be fair, they don't. There's a lot of things that the average everyday person doesn't understand. That
Yeah.
when you're going into education, they just take for granted that you know how to do, and there's hardly ever anybody there that's gonna show you, without making
Oh
fun
yeah.
of you. Hey, come here, let me show you. This is how you do this. This is how you sign in. This is how you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
this is how you put in when you're not going to be here. It's just stuff that you just don't know how to do, and
Yeah. A lot
making
of it you just
copies is
gotta
definitely one
figure
of
out.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. I run them copies quick now, though. I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm talking about. So, how long were you on that staff and doing what you did there?
So I was the wide receiver coach there for um 4 years. I ended up being the special teams coordinator there. He gave me a little more responsibility as I got my feet up underneath me a little bit, and so I spent 4 years there. And then I realized it was, I just needed it was time for a change. It was one of those things where I felt like and not that I wasn't growing there as a coach and things like that. I'm a big, proponent of grow where you're planted and things like that. But um my family, my wife wanted to move near her grandparents who were living in Athens. And so I thought that might be an opportunity to kind of branch out and see what else is out there. So, and this is crazy. So I mean, I email a bunch of different coaches like in the area, Oconee County, Monroe area, and a lot of different stuff around here. And then the last one, like I sent an email to, because I'm like, man, there's no way this guy's gonna hire me. Was Coach Riles at Clark Central, because they had just come off of a state championship appearance, and I had just come off of I don't know, a 2-8 season or something like that, But it just so happened that his brother, who was the wide receiver coach, was leaving to go be a head coach back down in Florida, and he needed a wide receiver coach. And so I emailed him, and he emailed me right back. Um, and that's how I called on at Clark Central with him for 2 years. And I don't know if you know Coach Riles, but Coach Riles is a character, and he's a really funny guy, but he'll he knows ball too, and he knows a lot of ball. And he's worked at the college level and things like that, and we were able to the first year I was there, we had a really good running back, ended up going to Tennessee, and we went 9-1 in the regular season, and it was made it the second round of the playoffs. And then that second year, after that second year, Coach Riles took the Thomasville job. So and I didn't, and I figured that would be a good time to. Just my wife's grandparents had moved back, so we were chasing them to Athens, and then they left. So she didn't have anybody in the area, and we had two small kids. I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at the time. So we moved. So after Clark Central, we moved back to Hall County, and Coach Rockmore gave me a job at Johnson, and then I spent like 6 years, I think 6 years at Johnson after those Clark Central years.
Yeah, I met Coach Riles when he was at Thomasville. I was at Early County at the time, and it was his last year there. And head coach
He,
called me out there, and he was like, "Come here, you got to talk to this guy." And Coach Riles was fired up about something. He was talking about something the kids had done, and he was like, "Man, I don't know if I can deal with these South Georgia kids. I got to get back up. I got to get back up to my area. I can't." He's like, he just didn't feel like it was a fit,
yeah,
but he
he's
was
a character.
funny. Oh yeah, and
Oh,
they had a good
he's
team.
hilarious.
Yeah,
And
he did a
and
great job.
and he'll, the thing about Coach Riles is he'll wear you out, and a lot of like if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he'll wear you out, but it's never personal, and it was um I enjoyed that. Like I always had fun on his coaching staff. Now you'll work your tail off, but I like ball, and I didn't mind doing that. So a lot of people would take it personal when he'd chew on them a little bit, but I always thought, if you just do, if you say you can do something and you do it, you ain't got nothing to worry about.
That's correct. So you go to Johnson. What was your role at Johnson when you first got there?
So at first, now, okay, so this is kind of cool in my development as well too. So I go there thinking I'm going to be coaching running backs. I'd coached on the offensive side of the ball um, my entire career up to that point. So I guess it was I guess it was 6 years. I had been on offense the entire time. And at West Hall, we were sold out Tony Franklin spread, and then at Clark Central, we were more of a pro style deal. We played with some tight ends, some H backs, fullbacks, stuff like that. But I was still doing wide receivers at the time. So I go and I think I'm interviewing for a running back job, and then Coach Rock says, "Man, I really need a DB coach," and I wasn't prepared for that. All my little running back drills ready to go, and so and he got in there, and he didn't. Thank goodness he didn't ask me to have any DB drills ready right then. But he's always said if you can coach, then you can learn. You learn how to teach something else. So I did that. I was the DB coach starting out there. And then I moved, stuck around and moved on up to the special teams coordinator. And then I was the defensive coordinator for a few years when we were in the region with Buford and those guys. So that was in Loganville and all that. So that was a lot of fun. Um, and and then after that, the last year I was there, he kind of let me in on a lot of he knew that I wanted to be a head coach eventually. And um, he let me in on a lot of the ins and outs of the finances and the ordering and all that kind of stuff. And so it was like it was an assistant head coach deal. So I was able to get a lot of as far as program building. I learned a ton about being unconditional, and you go to work every single day and believe in what you're doing and things like that with Coach Rock at Johnson. And there were some lean years there, but we also I have there's 2, 4, and 6 years at Johnson that I'm just as proud as any of the other years in coaching that I've been a part of. So and then so Coach Rock leaves, I think, after my 5th year at Johnson, and then Coach Luttrell comes in, and Coach Luttrell is I'm not sure if you've ever talked with him, but he's one of my mentors. Um, you know, uh, Coaching wise, spiritually. I mean, he's a guy I lean on heavily for a lot of different things, and I was very blessed to be able to. I was glad that I stuck around one more year after Coach Rock had left, so I got to work with Coach Luttrell as well, and he's been a real asset. I still talk to him pretty regularly.
Well, share with everybody the challenge that is Johnson. Is Johnson Gainesville, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Well, it's it's. I mean, if so, I guess we'll just be frank. I mean, there's a lot of Hispanic kids, a high Hispanic population, and a lot of the Hispanic kids they don't really, they don't grow up idolizing American football players, and so the kids that are there that play football, a lot of them are just trying it out for the first time and things like that. So they're just a little bit behind in that regard. Now we did have some, we had a running back that was pretty good. We had a safety that was pretty good there. But there's just if you're looking at programs top to bottom, it's just hard to. You're going to have holes with inexperienced kids, that come through. Now, the kids at Johnson, they do grow up playing in the Lanier Soccer Association, and I always joked with people because 2 of the years I taught at Johnson were the 2 years I coached baseball. I was the head baseball coach there for a couple years too, and I had a PE class, and I'm like, man, I could take this PE class who the kids didn't even make the team and go beat half of these kids on the schedule. I guarantee it. So, I mean, it's just different values. They grow up wanting to play soccer and be great at that, and a lot of them will try football, and unless it's changed since I've been there, but you'll get them and they work hard. These kids work hard, but I think it's just an experience gap, really.
Yeah, you're dealing with kids that didn't grow up playing football as little kids. And
Right.
like you said, they're trying it out for the first time, and that's rough. But it makes you a better coach because you have to coach those kids every
Absolutely.
every play, every rep, and they probably appreciate it a little bit more, to be honest
Oh,
with
they
you.
do. They do. And we had great kids at Johnson. And I look at Coach Rock, and he's a really good linebacker coach. And even when he was the head coach, he was still a linebacker coach. You know, he'll take the kid that comes in as a freshman in his linebacker position group, and by the time his junior year comes around, that dude can play some football now. But it's just getting him to stay out and hang with it and things like that and buy into the weight room. That's just like anybody else. But yeah, I'm really proud of the development of some of those guys that we had when we were at Johnson.
So, what was your next stop after Johnson?
So after Johnson, I went to so Coach Luttrell left the Johnson after 1 year, and I had previously put in for the head job at Johnson and didn't get it, which is a blessing in disguise because then I wouldn't have ended up where I did. So then I got to go to um, uh, Appalachia with Coach Lottie, and I had known Coach Lottie from his time when he was at West Hall and we were at Johnson, and I developed a little bit of a relationship with him, and also Coach Hancock, who was on staff with Coach Lottie, who was the defensive coordinator. Um, I worked with him at West Hall, like my second and third year in. So I had I had known him as well. So spent a year with Coach Lottie, and then the Oglethorpe job came open, and I was just I was a linebackers coach at Appalachia with Coach Lottie working under Coach Hancock. So I wasn't in any type of coordinator role or anything like that, but I just tried to learn everything I could from Coach Lottie and Coach Hancock, and it was a really good experience for me because I was fortunate enough to, and you talk about it's always who you know and things like that. When I applied for the Oglethorpe job, the only in that I had was a guy that I had worked with at Clark Central, and he knew me from when I worked at Clark Central. He was the wrestling coach at Clark Central at the time, Tim Stoudemire, but he's from Oglethorpe County, and he was back at Oglethorpe County as the athletic director. And so me knowing him got my foot in the door. And even though I did know him, I still got a rejection letter at first, and so I thought I was gonna end up going um, uh, somewhere else with Coach Luttrell, but it ended up working out. I ended up getting my foot in the door, and I guess I didn't sound like too much of an idiot there. And a couple interviews later, I'm the guy.
So, how many years now have you been the head coach at Oglethorpe County?
I just finished my fifth season.
Okay, so great. That's awesome. You go into your first head coaching job. You're at
Yeah,
Oglethorpe County. I'm sure everybody on earth, probably me included, is saying, man, it's a rough job. It's going to be tough, whatever. And you're like,
yeah.
it's my first one. What did you go in year one? All right, here are the things I got to make sure I get done.
So the first thing was, I wanted to imprint on the team and the community, kind of a relationship based, people first kind of deal. Not to say that it wasn't like that before, but I've always, talking to my mentors and things like that, I feel like you gotta 100% be you, and you gotta jump into what you believe in because the kids will know if you're not authentic from the jump. So I wanted to get in there, kind of see what was going on, see what we had going on with the kids, and get to know the kids, get to know the coaches, and all that. And when I was looking at the job when it came open, I went and looked at some huddle highlights, and I'm like, dang man, they got some kids over here. They got some kids that can go. And so when I did get in there, that was my first step is getting is lining up the coaching staff and making sure because I kept Coach Gresham, who's a former Oglethorpe County. He was a stud back in the '90s, running back, and then Coach Hull. He had been volunteering forever. So I talked to those two guys first, and then I interviewed all the guys that were on the previous staff, and I said, "Hey, what do you see as the biggest, barriers to success here, and all that kind of stuff?" And then just after getting that data and trying to understand um, what was needed, and then trying to do that in my own way, where I put people first and try to take care of people and build the program that way.
Well, what are some things over the past 5 years that you've changed or tweaked a little bit with your program, whether it be off-season preparation, the weight room, how you handle spring ball? I mean, have you kept it the
Yeah.
same, or are there things that you've kind of trial and
Well,
error?
I did keep it the same the first 4 years, and after the last season, the season that we had when we went 0-10, I knew that we had something missing, and it wasn't necessarily a talent thing. I mean, we got guys that can. that can run. We got guys that can do things well, and so we were missing something. And the only thing I thought of that it could be is like we just don't, you know, we don't play together very well. We don't play as a team very well. We don't play for each other. So what I did this past season is every Friday, we would lift, and I do the weight room too. So we haven't necessarily changed a whole lot in there. As long as the kids are growing and get better, I'm going to keep going with what we're doing there. But what I did do that was different in January, I started bringing them in. We would come in, we'd do a quick lift on Friday, and then we would go to my classroom and we would work through some different things. And like I was always like, hey, these are our team values and this, that, and the other. And it's like, man, that don't really mean nothing because nobody has really any skin in the game. I can write down whatever I want on a t-shirt or on a wall and paint it on a wall, but I mean, unless it means something to them, it's not important. So we started out like in January trying to define what we wanted the team to be about, and we kind of worked through that process, and we picked some different values that we wanted our team to be about, like hard work, mental toughness, trust, competitiveness, and then don't flinch is one of them. So and those kids, kids picked those, and the kids voted on those, and so I felt like they had more buy-in as far as that goes. So as far as the X's and O's go, we did make a change, offensively to something I feel like it's going to suit us better year in, year out. We were more of a pro style offense before, and we were running inside zone, power, counter. We play with the tight end some, play with the H back a lot, play action off of it, screen game, and that kind of thing. And it just, I for whatever reason, we could never get over the hump that way. But so we did make some changes schematically. We all the offensive staff jumped into sold out to the wing tee, and we tried to do it out of the pistol originally, and then the stuff wasn't hitting as fast, so we kind of made an adjustment and went under center. So we're getting to a more traditional wing tee than we have been.
Yeah, I remember seeing you guys on film this year, and linemen aren't the biggest in the world, and you're not
Yep.
blessed with ginormous guys, but golly, they stay low and they get after it, and the angles that you get in the wing is so much better.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, finding something that fits your kids,
Right.
and to
Well, and
me,
like
that's what you have to do.
yeah, I agree. And some years we would have kids that we could throw it to, and or a kid that could throw it, and other years when we didn't, it's like, okay, well, yeah, you got your bell cow at running back, but I mean, everybody's locked in on that. Well, now you got a couple of different guys that can tote the rock and share that load, and it's been really good for us.
So you make the playoffs this year after an 0-10 season. I'm sure that was pretty big deal for the kids there and for you as well.
It was. We had, let's see, back when we were in the region where there was just 4 teams in the region. One year we made it by default, and then one year we were able to beat Jasper County and get in as the 3. But it was really nice to outright win a playoff spot this year. That was really awesome for our community and our kids.
Now, we talked off air, and I'm not putting you on the spot, and I'm not trying to get you in trouble, but got banged a little bit with the PSR because you ended up having to play one of your region opponents,
Yeah.
in the first
Um,
round, and that's one of the drawbacks of the PSR and using
yeah.
the power ranking system. But you still you still made the playoffs. You still have something to build off of, off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we thought, the first time, we played Elbert, coming into the game, they were, heavy throwing the ball around and things like that. And they ran the ball more on us than we were prepared for. And so we prepared for that a little bit more this time, but we still, we still struggled. I mean, we did a little bit better if you look at the stats, but I mean, it's pretty much a lot of the same. I mean, it's 27-0 the first time, and it was 24-7 the second time. It's just Coach Dyer does a really good job, and we just did not match up well against that bunch.
So, what are some things? How do you handle spring at Oglethorpe? Because you talked earlier about sharing dudes.
Yeah.
Do you do
Well,
spring? Do you wait? I
we've
mean,
done
how do
it.
you do it?
We've done it all 5 years up to this point, but I'm talking with the staff and things like that. Now I'm open to maybe doing another not doing spring and doing a scrimmage an extra scrimmage instead in the fall, because I worry about like our track kids, right? Our kids who are, are more explosive athletes, or wide receivers, running backs. They're all track kids, and they're all going to go to the state track meet, so they're all going to get 3 days of practice. And I worry a little bit about injury, and like something crazy happening just because they've only been out there really 3 days, and then a walkthrough, or 2 days and a walkthrough, whatever it is, depending on when the state track meet is. Um, so we've always done a spring and looked at it as like a thing to develop kids and get guys who maybe are on the fence about playing, interested and trying to make it fun for them, and get them in there under the lights, and maybe they'll catch that bug and want to buy into it. But yeah, that's how we've handled it in the past. Not sure that I'm going to handle it that way this year, but that's still kind of in discussion.
Oh yeah, off season's all about reevaluation and revamping. And speaking of which, how do you handle? I mean, I'm fascinated by the different ways there are to skin a cat and how people
Hmm.
handle their summers. Are you the 4 day traditional Monday through Thursday guy, or do you do a 3 day a week? I mean, how do you handle summer off season stuff?
Yeah, so we've always been 4 days, Monday through Thursday. We start out in the weight room, and then we'll get a full lift at hour and a half or so, and that includes like any type of speed and agility type stuff that we do. And then we transition out to the field and do kind of like just a mini helmet only 7-on-7 stuff. We do our EDD, our everyday drills, all that kind of stuff. um but yeah, I'm with you though. I'm always researching and trying to figure out what's best. And I try to ask the kids to make sure that they're there 80% of the time. That's for our little summer incentive. Whatever the incentive might be, a little hoodie or a long sleeve or a dry fit or something like that. And that still gives them an opportunity to miss a week for a family vacation or something like that, and still be able to get that incentive. But yeah, we've always done 4 days a week. When we were at Clark, I believe we did 4 days, but we did it at 3:30 in the afternoon, which I thought was interesting. And you don't have kids oversleeping or anything like that. And if you got kids in your position group that are going to need a ride, you got plenty of time to get them and all that kind of stuff. So, but I've always been in the morning, so we go from about 8 to 11. And then we'll do some sprinkling, some 7-on-7s and stuff like that. So we'll go to Madison County, we'll go to Clark Central, we'll go to Cedar Shoals and throw it against those guys. We'll try to do one of those a week.
Yeah, that answered my next two questions. I was going to ask whether you went in the morning, the afternoon, and what kind of 7-on-7 works. So when you come back after the dead week, it's not really much of a transition as far as having to pick up that extra day. I know we do 3 days a week in June,
Yeah.
and then in July we come back. Now it's a 4 day a week situation, and that takes a little bit of time to adjust to.
Yeah. Well, and I think my buddy at Kennesaw Mountain, Coach Carmine, I think he does 3 days a week in June and then 4 in July as well. But yeah, I'm open to that for sure. I've been thinking about that too, and just think about stuff like, giving those kids time to have a summer and all that stuff too, so that when they do come back, they're not burnt out.
What how did FTE treat you guys and region alignment? Did it change anything for you guys, or is everything going to stay the
No.
same? I mean, what did you think
Yeah,
about all of that?
yeah, everything was pretty much, yeah. We knew we weren't going to get any like big movement or anything like that, so we knew we were going to be in AA. And um, I mean, you end up having 7 classifications anyway. It's single A, Division 1 or Division 2. I don't know the difference there, but um, so we knew we were going to be in the AA. And I figured, we kind of drew a little preliminary region up, and we were pretty dang close with what we thought was going to happen. Prince played up last cycle, and so they didn't petition to go up or anything. So we lost Elbert. Elbert goes up to AAA, but we get Prince in there in the region. So, and then everybody else we felt confident was going to be Providence Christian. Though I didn't think that they would be back in there with us, but they did get put back in there with us.
So it's basically the same region. You just gain Prince, lose Elbert.
Yep.
How many kids did you graduate this year, or will you
9.
graduate this year?
Well, this like how many seniors do I have on the team right now?
Yes.
Yeah, 9.
Okay.
So yeah, we will lose a couple of backers. We get a lot of our skill back. We lose our center, who's a really really good player. He's been a 4-year starter for us.
Yeah, he was a big old kid.
Yeah, he can go. He's a good one too. He's smart. He's AP biology kid. Um, so I'm hoping he wants to go play at the next level. He's been kind of backtracking a little bit, and he's got some offers and things like that. But uh, sometimes you got a girlfriend at home, and just trying to get him out there and experience the world it's a little tough to kick him out the door sometimes.
Absolutely. So, what are the plans for the off season for Coach Holland and his family and the coaching staff? What are some things that you look forward to? I mean, I know we all wish we were still playing, but
Yeah,
what are some things
yeah,
that your wife started out not being like mine hates baseball, and the reason she
uh-huh.
hates baseball is because there's more than one game a week,
Yeah, you're
and then
probably Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
and there's rainouts and there's makeups, and she's like, with football, y'all play on Friday.
Yeah,
Sometimes on Saturday, very rarely on a Thursday. You're going to play 10 games, maybe more if we're good. At the most, you're going to play 15.
right.
So that was easier for her to deal with than, the spring sports where you're multiple games a week and all over the place. What are some things you plan on doing in the off season to recharge and hang out and things like that? You said your son's 18. Is he
Yep,
still in
yep.
school or is he in college now?
Yeah, he's in school. He's a senior this year. So he wants to go to Athens Tech next year and do some and try to learn some electrician stuff. And I think that's a great deal for him. I'm really excited for him. My daughter, I have 4 kids, so I got my daughter is a sophomore, and I have a 7th grader and a 7-year-old who's in first grade. So kind of spread out through all the
You ain't
different ages.
you ain't never gonna get them jokers off the payroll.
No, you're right.
You're gonna be
You're
working
right about that.
forever.
Yeah, yeah. We got a lot of family close, so we always my wife's mother owns a wedding venue in Cumming, and so we do a lot of our Christmas and Thanksgiving stuff there, and it's always a good family outing spot, and so we'll do that. And my youngest son, he's since we lived in Hall County for a long time, so my oldest son, he doesn't really care much about the outdoors, but my youngest son is always wanting to go deer hunting now and things like that. So we might get into that a little bit.
Yeah, having that free time is you got to cherish it. I mean, you got to enjoy
Yeah,
it, and you got to make sure you. I mean, our rule in our house is pretty simple. When you got to go to work, go to work. And when you have free time, spend it with us, and that's
that's good.
definitely
Yeah,
the thing you got to do is putting your family first, and then recharge your batteries and come back after Santa Claus comes and figure
yep,
out the college football season's over, and then it's back to work.
yep, yep. And I always just I don't even think I try not to think about it until December comes around. I just try to take the next few weeks off and just try to be with my family and all that, and then worry about any of that other planning stuff as we get closer to the end of the year.
Well, what are some things that you've done it for 19 years? What are some things that you've noticed about the high school game that's changed since you first got into it?
That's a good question. Well, and people say the kids have changed and stuff like that, but there's different kids and different types of kids wherever you go. And I think that's one of the things that's been good about me being able to go to a couple of different places. There's I see how different communities are and things like that. But I guess as far as the game goes, I just the longer you're in it, the more you see how it goes in cycles, and what's in fashion. What for a couple of years will fall out of fashion once somebody figures out how to stop it. And you see it a lot, and part of the things that like with us going to the wing tee, the teams that we play probably don't see a whole lot of wing tee teams, and we got so it's hard to practice for that and just um, get it straight in a week, and then especially if you don't see it very often. So I mean, I guess I mean I wouldn't say I think the kids have definitely more distractions. So like boredom is good if you're an athlete, because what are you going to do if you're bored? You're going to go work, you're going to play, you're going to do something like that. But now I would say, the kids are never bored because you got instant gratification, in your pocket, and you can look up anything that you want and play games all day on it, and all that kind of stuff. So you're never really bored enough to, hey, I'm going to go, hang out and throw football with my buddies or something like that.
Well, I know one thing I noticed during our talk is to you and what you said in your journey is the importance of building relationships and making sure you don't burn any bridges. What's another piece of advice you might give some young guys out there that are aspiring to be a head coach or just get in the coaching profession, in general?
Yeah. I guess I'll try to give some advice that doesn't sound cliche, but I mean, a lot of the things that are cliche of just things that I've believed in and bought into and have really helped me out as far as just, being where you are and trying to learn as much as you can from who you're with. Never be too good to, pick trash up off the floor. You're always find ways to help out, be a team player as far as, yeah, that may not be your job, or that kid may not be in your position group, but if he needs a ride, find a way to get him a ride. It's just stuff like that. It's just as far as like just being willing to help each other, and not ever feeling like you're too good, to do the dirty work, to do the laundry, and to do, what I'm saying? Like some people, and not a lot. I've been fortunate to work. I have great assistants, and I've been fortunate to work with really good people. But you know how sometimes people can, if you're chasing just a title, and you may think things are above you or below you, excuse me. And I would just say find where you can grow. Make sure you're actively trying to grow and learn new things, and understand that you're never going to know all the answers. So yeah, I mean, I know that's a lot. That's kind of a rambling thing, but that's just kind of where my mind goes with that.
Well, Coach, you've had a outstanding start to your career. You've been a lot of different places. You worked in big schools and little schools, and now you've been the head coach for 5 years, and you're building something special there in Oglethorpe County. And I sure do appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I really was flattered, that you asked me to be on here, and I listen to you a lot, and I've learned a lot from coaches that are on your podcast. And
Season 7 of Sun Coaches Podcast is proudly brought to you by Titan Sensor. Season 7